Sir, you are no gentleman.
Hollywood's golden age sold the world. A dream, flawless faces, perfect smiles, and stars who seemed born for the spotlight. But behind that polished magic was a harsher truth. Many icons were quietly reshaped by studio doctors, painful procedures, and impossible beauty standards, proving that classic glamour was often built as much by secrecy as by talent. Number 1. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe was not simply born as the blonde bombshell the world remembers. Before the name, before the white dress, before the camera turned her into a legend, she was Norma Jean, a young woman with ambition, beauty, and a deep hunger to be seen. But in Hollywood, being beautiful was rarely enough. The studio system wanted something sharper, softer, more unforgettable. According to the original article, Marilyn's transformation reportedly included subtle work on her nose and chin, helping shape the delicate, heart-like face that became her signature. These changes were not meant to make her look artificial. They were designed to make every close-up feel effortless, every photograph feel iconic, and every glance seem larger than life. Combined with platinum blonde hair, carefully crafted makeup, and a controlled public image, Norma Jean slowly became Marilyn Monroe. What makes her story feel so real and so heartbreaking is that the world fell in love with an image that had been carefully built around her. Marilyn became the fantasy Hollywood wanted, but behind that fantasy was a real woman still searching for herself. Her beauty was legendary, but her story reminds us that glamour often comes with a hidden cost. Number 2. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth's rise to fame was not just a Hollywood makeover, it was a reinvention. Before she became the glamorous red-haired icon the world adored, she was Margarita Carmen Cancino, a young dancer with dark hair, a low hairline, and a look that reminded the studio too much of her Spanish roots. In 1930s Hollywood, that was not seen as exotic beauty, it was seen as a problem. According to the original article, Columbia Pictures reshaped her image through one of the most painful transformations of the Golden Age. Her hairline was reportedly raised through repeated electrolysis treatments, a slow and agonizing process that destroyed hair follicles one by one. There was no modern comfort, no easy recovery, just pain, patience, and the promise of stardom. Along with her new hairline came dyed auburn hair and a new name, Rita Hayworth. What makes her story so powerful is not just the physical pain, but what Hollywood tried to erase. Margarita Cancino did not simply change her style. She was pushed to become someone more acceptable to the industry's narrow idea of beauty. Rita Hayworth became a legend, but behind that legend was a woman whose identity had been carefully edited for the screen. Her glamour was unforgettable, but it came at a deeply human cost. Number 3. Gary Cooper. Gary Cooper had the kind of face Hollywood loved: tall, calm, handsome, and quietly powerful. He did not need to shout to own a scene. His presence alone could fill the screen. But according to the original article, even a man who looked almost perfectly built for the movies was not safe from the studio's sharp eye. Before Cooper became one of Hollywood's most respected leading men, executives reportedly noticed one small detail they believed could weaken his image: his ears. In real life, slightly protruding ears would mean almost nothing. They might even make a person look more natural, more human. But in Golden Age Hollywood, every angle mattered. A close-up could build a career, and a profile shot could damage one. The studio reportedly believed Cooper's ears stood out too much on camera, especially from the side, so he underwent otoplasty ear-pinning surgery to bring them closer to his head and create a cleaner, more heroic profile. What makes Gary Cooper's story so revealing is how small the problem really was. He already had the height, the talent, the quiet masculinity, and the screen presence. Yet Hollywood still found something to correct. His transformation was not dramatic like Marilyn Monroe's, or painful like Rita Hayworth's, but it shows how ruthless the studio system could be. Even the smallest imperfection had to be edited, hidden, or surgically fixed before a star was allowed to look effortless. Number 4. John Wayne. John Wayne built his legend on toughness. He was the cowboy, the soldier, the man who walked into danger without flinching. To audiences, he looked like pure American grit, weathered strong and completely untouched by vanity. But according to the original article, even the Duke's rugged image was quietly protected by Hollywood's beauty machine. As Wayne grew older, the camera began to reveal what every human face eventually shows: time. For a star whose career depended on strength, vitality, and masculine confidence, aging was not just personal, it was professional. The article says Wayne reportedly underwent discreet facelift work and later eyelid surgery to keep his face firm, alert, and camera-ready. His recovery periods were hidden behind hunting or fishing trips, allowing the public to believe his enduring look was simply natural toughness. What makes John Wayne's story so fascinating is the contradiction. Hollywood wanted him to appear like a man who would never care about beauty, yet the system still worked behind the scenes to preserve that exact illusion. His procedures were not about looking glamorous. They were about keeping the myth alive, the fearless American hero who never weakened, never softened, and never seemed to age like everyone else. Number 5. Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor seemed like the kind of beauty Hollywood could never improve: those famous violet eyes, the rare double row of lashes, and a face that looked made for the camera from the very beginning. She was not just pretty, she was magnetic even as a child. But according to the original article, even Elizabeth Taylor's legendary image was quietly refined by the studio system before she became one of the most breathtaking stars in film history. Her transformation was not harsh or dramatic. Unlike some actresses who were pushed through painful reinventions, Taylor's changes were careful, gradual, and almost invisible. The article says MGM reportedly began working on her smile when she was still young, using early dental techniques to correct slightly uneven teeth. The goal was not to change who she was, but to make sure every close-up matched the rare beauty Hollywood believed it had discovered. What makes Elizabeth Taylor's story so fascinating is the restraint. The studio did not need to rebuild her. Nature had already done most of the work. But Golden Age Hollywood believed perfection had to be managed, polished, and protected. Her smile became part of the complete image: glamorous, youthful, and impossibly elegant. Taylor's beauty may have been extraordinary, but her story reminds us that even the most naturally gifted stars were still shaped by the machine behind the screen. Number 6. Burt Lancaster. Burt Lancaster did not look like a man Hollywood needed to fix. He had the body of an athlete, the confidence of a performer, and the kind of raw energy that made him impossible to ignore. Before he became a major star, he had worked as a circus acrobat, and that physical past gave him a powerful screen presence. But according to the original article, there was one detail that did not match the image Hollywood wanted for him: his teeth. Lancaster's smile, which later became one of his most recognizable features, was reportedly the result of serious dental reconstruction. His natural teeth had been uneven and damaged, likely from years of physical work and hard living before fame. For the studio, that was a problem. A leading man could be tough, dangerous, even rough around the edges, but when he smiled, the camera needed perfection. So studio dentists reportedly rebuilt his smile with bridges, partial dentures, and early cosmetic techniques. What makes Burt Lancaster's story compelling is how much that smile changed the way he carried himself. After the dental work, he did not just look different, he seemed more confident, more polished, more like a movie star. His brilliant grin helped soften his toughness and made him both powerful and charming on screen. Lancaster's transformation shows how Hollywood did not only create beauty, it created confidence one hidden procedure at a time. Number 7. Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn has always been remembered as the picture of effortless elegance, soft eyes, delicate features, and a smile that seemed almost too pure for Hollywood. But behind that timeless beauty, according to the story, there was still a quiet touch of studio perfection. Before Roman Holiday made her a global sensation, executives reportedly noticed small imperfections in her teeth. They were not dramatic flaws. In real life, they may have made her smile even more human. But Golden Age Hollywood was not built on human imperfection. It was built for close-ups, posters, and impossible standards. So Audrey was reportedly sent to studio dental specialists, where her smile was carefully refined, without taking away the gentle innocence that made her so captivating. What makes Audrey's case so fascinating is that she was not remade into someone else. Unlike many stars who were reshaped more dramatically, Audrey remained. Audrey graceful, modest, and unmistakably herself. The work was subtle, almost invisible, but it helped complete the image of timeless beauty the world would fall in love with. Her story reminds us that even Hollywood's most natural icons were often polished by the system first. Number 8. Judy Garland. Judy Garland's story is one of the most heartbreaking in Hollywood history. To the world, she was the bright-eyed girl with the unforgettable voice, the young star who made The Wizard of Oz feel magical. But behind that magic was a child being shaped, judged, and controlled by one of the most powerful studio systems in America. According to the original article, MGM began altering Judy's appearance when she was still a teenager. Her teeth became one of the studio's targets. Instead of allowing her natural smile to grow and change with time, studio dentists reportedly fitted her with painful, removable caps to make her teeth look more perfect on camera. These were not gentle beauty treatments. They were uncomfortable devices that affected how she spoke, smiled, and even sang. For a young girl already under pressure to stay thin, look pretty, and perform flawlessly, every correction became another reminder that Hollywood did not think she was enough. What makes Judy Garland's case so painful is that she was not simply being prepared for stardom, she was being controlled by it. Her talent was extraordinary, but the studio focused obsessively on her flaws. The result was a star loved by millions, yet privately wounded by the machine that created her. Judy's smile became part of movie history, but behind it was a young woman carrying the cost of Hollywood's impossible idea of perfection. Number 9. Clark Gable. Clark Gable was sold to the world as the ultimate leading man, the king of Hollywood, with a powerful stare, a confident grin, and the kind of masculine charm that made audiences believe he was untouchable. But according to the original article, behind that famous smile was a secret the studio worked hard to keep hidden. Gable's teeth were in serious condition before MGM rebuilt his image. By the time his career was rising, the article says Gable had suffered from severe dental problems, including decay and tooth loss. For a romantic leading man, that was more than a health issue, it was a threat to the fantasy Hollywood was trying to sell. MGM reportedly chose a dramatic solution, extracting his damaged teeth and replacing them with full dentures. It was painful, private, and carefully concealed from the public. What makes Clark Gable's story so striking is how completely Hollywood could rebuild a star while making it look effortless. That bold, camera-ready smile became part of his legend in films like Gone with the Wind, but it was also a reminder that perfection often came from behind closed doors. Gable's charm was real, his talent was real, but the image of the flawless leading man was carefully manufactured, one secret correction at a time. Number 10. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was not the kind of star who waited for Hollywood to approve of her. She fought her way up from chorus girl to movie queen with discipline, ambition, and a face that became impossible to forget. But according to the original article, one of her most famous features, those sharp, dramatic cheekbones, may have been intensified through a painful and extreme dental procedure. Early in her career, as MGM tried to transform her from a lively flapper into a serious, dramatic actress, Crawford reportedly had several back molars removed. The goal was not dental health, it was visual impact. By removing those teeth, her cheeks appeared more hollow, her cheekbones looked stronger, and her face gained the sculpted intensity that would become her signature on screen. It was a brutal kind of beauty created for close-ups and studio lighting. What makes Joan Crawford's story so powerful is her willingness to suffer for control. Hollywood demanded perfection, but Crawford turned that demand into armor. Her face became sharp, commanding, almost untouchable, just like the image she built around herself. Behind the glamour was pain, but also determination. Crawford understood the rules of the studio system, and she played them harder than almost anyone. Number 11. Cary Grant. Cary Grant looked like elegance itself. The perfect suit, the effortless smile, the smooth voice, the kind of charm that made audiences believe some men were simply born timeless. But according to the original article, even Cary Grant's legendary image was not left entirely to nature. As he moved into his late 40s, Hollywood's most polished leading man faced the one thing no studio could fully control: age. For an actor whose career depended on sophistication, romance, and youthful confidence, every line on his face mattered. The article says Grant reportedly underwent a discreet facelift in the early 1950s, focusing mainly on his jawline and neck. The goal was not to make him look different. It was to make him look like the same Cary Grant audiences already loved, just a little fresher, a little sharper, and still effortlessly camera-ready. What makes his story so fascinating is the secrecy. A female star might be expected to suffer for beauty, but a man like Cary Grant had to appear as if he never tried at all. His glamour had to look natural, untouched, almost accidental. That was the illusion. Behind it was a carefully protected image maintained with the same precision as his tailored suits. Cary Grant remained the symbol of timeless class, but Hollywood helped keep the clock from showing. Number 12. Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo did not simply become a mystery, Hollywood helped create one around her. When she first arrived in America, she already had something rare, those deep, expressive eyes and a quiet intensity that made people look twice. But according to the original article, MGM believed her face needed to be sharpened before she could become the haunting screen icon they imagined. In her early days, Garbo's features were softer and fuller than the dramatic image audiences later remembered. The studio reportedly pushed her through a full transformation, including facial contouring, dental refinements, strict weight control, and even early forms of surgical assistance to create a slimmer, more sculpted look. Her cheekbones became more defined, her jawline more elegant, and her entire face began to carry that distant, almost unreachable beauty that made her legendary. What makes Greta Garbo's story so compelling is that Hollywood did not just change her appearance, it shaped her myth. The world saw a mysterious goddess who seemed born to live behind shadows and silence. But behind that image was a young woman being carefully molded for the camera. Garbo's beauty felt natural because the illusion was so perfectly built. That was the genius and the cruelty of the Golden Age machine. Number 13. Dean Martin. Dean Martin made smooth look easy. The relaxed smile, the velvet voice, the drink-in-hand confidence, everything about him seemed effortless, like he had been born to charm a room without even trying. But according to the original article, before Dean Martin became the picture of cool American sophistication, Hollywood helped refine the man behind the image. Born Dino Crocetti, Martin carried a look that reflected his Italian roots. Early in his career, the article says Paramount executives reportedly felt his nose appeared too broad and too ethnic for the romantic mainstream image they wanted to build around him. So in 1948, during the height of his partnership with Jerry Lewis, Martin allegedly underwent rhinoplasty to give his face a cleaner, more polished profile. The change was subtle, but powerful enough to help transform Dino into Dean. What makes Dean Martin's story feel so real is the conflict behind the glamour. This was not just about changing a nose, it was about changing how America would see him. The surgery helped create the elegant entertainer audiences adored, but it also reflected Hollywood's pressure to soften identity, smooth out heritage, and package stars for mass appeal. Dean Martin became an icon of effortless cool, but even that effortlessness was carefully manufactured. Number 14. Sophia Loren. Sophia Loren had the kind of beauty that did not need permission. Her face was bold, warm, and unforgettable. Those almond-shaped eyes, high cheekbones, and a presence that felt both glamorous and completely alive. She was not the typical Hollywood doll. She carried the fire of Italy with her, and that made her different. But according to the original article, even Sophia Loren's already striking beauty was quietly refined for the camera. Early in her career, the article says Loren reportedly had subtle work done around her eyes and cheekbones. These were not dramatic changes meant to erase who she was. Instead, they were careful enhancements designed to make her natural features photograph with even more intensity. A slight adjustment near the outer corners of her eyes helped emphasize that famous almond shape, while delicate contouring brought more definition to her face under studio lights. What makes Sophia Loren's story so fascinating is that her transformation did not feel manufactured. Hollywood did not turn her into someone else. It simply amplified what was already powerful. Her beauty remained sensual, mature, and unmistakably her own. In a world where many stars were reshaped to fit a narrow standard, Loren's image proved that true glamour did not always come from hiding identity. Sometimes it came from sharpening it until the whole world could not look away. Number 15. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart did not become a legend because he looked perfect. He became a legend because he looked real tired, eyes sharp edges, a cigarette voice, and a way of speaking that made every line sound like it came from a man who had already seen too much. But according to the original article, even Bogart's rough, unforgettable style had been quietly shaped by Hollywood before it became iconic. Early in his career, Bogart reportedly struggled with a mild lisp, something that could have damaged his chances of becoming a leading man in an industry obsessed with polished speech and perfect presentation. Warner Brothers saw potential in him, but they also saw a problem. The article says he underwent extensive dental work to correct the structure behind his speech, including reshaped teeth and partial dental reconstruction. What makes Bogart's story so fascinating is that Hollywood did not completely erase the flaw. Instead, it turned it into character. His speech remained slightly unusual, but now it sounded controlled, cool, and unmistakably his. That voice became part of the Bogart myth in films like Casablanca and The Maltese Falcon. His transformation proves that sometimes Hollywood's greatest magic was not creating perfection, it was taking an imperfection and making it unforgettable. Number 16. Ava Gardner. Ava Gardner looked like trouble wrapped in beauty, the kind of woman the camera could not ignore. With her smoky eyes, sharp cheekbones, and effortless sensuality, she became one of MGM's most unforgettable stars. But according to the original article, even Ava's striking face was not considered finished when Hollywood first found her. The studio saw a beautiful young woman, but it also saw details it wanted to control. One of the biggest changes reportedly involved her hairline. MGM believed Ava's natural hairline was too low and did not frame her face in the ideal way for close-ups. So she was allegedly put through painful electrolysis treatments to raise and reshape it. Each session targeted hair follicles one by one, a slow and uncomfortable process that could leave her exhausted. The article also describes subtle facial contouring meant to emphasize her cheekbones and sharpen the exotic beauty that became her trademark. What makes Ava Gardner's story so powerful is that her beauty always seemed wild, natural, and impossible to manufacture. Yet behind that freedom was a studio system quietly editing her appearance to fit its fantasy. Ava became famous for looking untamed, but even that untamed image was carefully polished under Hollywood's control. Her glamour was real, but it came with pain hidden just outside the frame. Number 17. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando built his legend on rejecting everything fake about Hollywood. He was raw, unpredictable, emotional, and dangerous in a way audiences had never seen before. He did not act like the polished movie stars before him. He seemed to breathe, suffer, and explode right in front of the camera. But according to the original article, even Brando's image of natural rebellion may have been quietly refined before the world fully met him. Early in his career, Before a Streetcar Named Desire helped turn him into a cultural force. Brando reportedly felt his nose looked too wide on screen. The change was not dramatic. He did not want to look pretty or overly perfect. The article says he chose a subtle rhinoplasty, just enough to narrow and define his nose while keeping the rugged strength that made him different from the typical Hollywood leading man. What makes Brando's story so interesting is the contradiction. He became famous for challenging Hollywood's artificial beauty and stiff performances, yet he still made a small compromise with the camera. His face remained masculine, intense, and unmistakably his own, but slightly adjusted for the screen. Brando's transformation reminds us that even the most authentic rebels of Hollywood sometimes had to pass through the same beauty machine they later seemed to defy.